Hey guys, welcome to the first ever Stockton Lake fishing report. Current lake conditions, our lake level is 864, so we're down about 3 feet from 867. The water temperatures start in the morning about 78 to 80 degrees, getting up to 82 to 84 in the afternoon. Water clarity is good, it's fairly clear, not too clear where you can't still get over the top of the brush piles. What we're starting to see happen on the lake with the cooler temperatures last week and the week before, and overcast conditions this week, the fish are kind of starting to break up a little bit, trying to get into their fall pattern. It's not a full-on transition yet, but we are starting to see those fish that are hanging around the brush piles start to suspend off to the side. We're starting to see some bass, crappie, walleye show up on the points in the mouth of the creeks close to the channel swings. So things are changing around a little bit, and we're going to start to see that transition happen as the days get shorter and the water temperatures continue to cool off. Hopefully they'll stay on the brush for a while, but that's not going to hold out very much longer, I'm afraid. The crappie have consistently been hanging around that 22-foot mark. They're in brush piles 18 to 25 feet deep. The brush piles that are a little bit deeper, 25 feet, that top out in about 15, those are the ones that are really producing some quality and some numbers. You'll see when you pull out of those piles, whether you have Panoptics or you've got just regular 2D, you'll see the fish suspended above the piles, and those will be the most active fish that you catch right as soon as you drop down. Some of the key baits that we've been using fishing brush are the bonehead. The bleeding shiner has been my #1 bait, and salt and pepper is always a go-to. We've got a new product that I'm gonna just highlight a little bit. It's actually not a new product. It's this is first look ever at it, but it is a jacked crappie jig, 3/16 with a screw lock on it. I'll leave that bait on there and just hold up one of the screw locks. I don't know if you can see that, but that right there will save y'all a lot of money, because you get that bonehead bait on there and it's staying until you get hung up on a branch or a limb and you have to break it off, which it's gonna happen, but you won't go through near as many baits. I'm fishing shiners in the brush piles, and I'm just using regular lead heads, 16th ounce. These are ones that I just set around in the winter pour when I'm slower and the evening in between winter trips. But I got these hooks at Everhard's last year. I bought probably 4,000 or 5,000 of them and just set and pour. But these are the smallest hooks I could find. Not sure the size, but the reason I want such a small hook is when you're crawling it through the brush pile, you're not constantly getting hung up. If you feel the brush, you can shake your rod, shake it off, and 9 times out of 10, if you don't set the hook into the brush, you'll get it to come loose. So that's what we've been using for crappie. Alright, we're going to move on into the bass part of things. The bass have been consistently on those 18 to 25 foot brush piles. Again, the thermocline's at 22 feet, so anything above the 22 foot mark is good, but if you get too shallow, that water temperature is still warm. #1 bait for bass right now is throwing a peanut butter and jelly 7/16 KP power finesse jig made by Jack Baits. This is my favorite jig I've ever fished in my life, and it produces fish. My second favorite is a plum 10-inch worm. I pegged that with a jacked peg and a 1/2 ounce tungsten weight, and that way when you're fishing through the brush you can just pull it right through there. You don't have your weight going over a limb and your worm on the other side and a fish getting you wrapped around. Always peg it, and I actually always use 2 pegs on it. The bass have started to move around a little bit, so they're not just right on the brush. You can catch them outside of the brush on a crankbait, a 5XD. Caught them on all 3 of these colors right here. 5XD seems to get down to the right depth for them. If they're moving water, they're a little bit more prone to bite. They're not just around the brush, they're starting to show up around the mouth of creek arms on those main lake points, but the timing's got to be right for the crankbait bite to be really good. But you can pound several fish with a crankbait right now, and it's only going to get better as they start to move back into the creeks. Alright guys, we're going to talk about walleye a little bit. The walleye are still on the flats. If you're fishing the flats, bottom bouncer is a way to go for sure. Use a whole or a half night crawler. We're fishing 2 ounce bottom bouncers in 18 to 22 foot of water. Occasionally you'll find them a little bit deeper, and occasionally you'll find them a little bit shallower. If we have overcast, choppy conditions, we've caught them as shallow as 14 foot, running worm harnesses off the back of bottom bouncer. The walleye have started to move around a little bit. They're following the white bass around because the white bass are just feeding them. Basically, they're stunning and killing a bunch of shad, so they've started to pull off the flats and get on some of the main lake points and be in other places. And plus the water temperature's cooled off a little bit, so they're kind of starting to think about the fall transition as well. We're going to talk about white bass now. White bass, our go-to has been a Whopper Plopper 90. That's been consistently producing the biggest white bass. Not going to dig too deep into white bass. All you need to do is run down the lake until you see them schooling. When you see a school staying on top, either take that Whopper Plopper 90 in a powder color, or I think it's Sexy and I Know It, something white, and the grays work, or translucents work a little bit better in cloudy conditions. But the Whopper Plopper and a 1/2 ounce spoon has been producing a lot of fish for us. And the reason the 1/2 ounce spoon works so good is when you pull up on a school white bass, you can launch it a mile and get to them. If you're just coming down to the lake and want to catch some fish, I'd recommend a 1/4 ounce rooster tail. I don't have any setting up here to show you guys, but if you just see a few white bass or fish blowing up on the surface, even if you don't know how to identify white bass schooling, if you see a few fish busting on the surface here and here and here, take a 1/4 ounce rooster tail, put 2 rods out and troll around in that area, and you're gonna start catching some whites. And then a lot of times they'll just erupt right around the boat and you can cast to them and catch them. It's a lot of fun for kids. It's a lot of fun for everybody. I do it every day and it doesn't get old. So go out there and capitalize on this time of year for the white bass. They'll be up for probably another month or so. Thank you all for tuning in. If you guys have any questions that you would like to be answered, let us know. We'd appreciate a like on the video. Tune in next week.